So really quickly, I wanted to show you a video on how to set up a trading bot with Python. So this is not going to be for MQL5, MQL4, NinjaTrader, anything like that. This is just going to be pure Python. So if you want to use the MetaTrader 5 library, if you're in Forex or anything else, you could use the same setup. But again, this is specifically for Python. So if you're looking for a specific MetaTrader EA build, this is not it. Right? But you can use this if you want to connect MetaTrader to Python, which there is an actual connection for that too. Check one of my old videos. All right. Now, I'm going to show you how to set it up with Python, whether you want to do a futures, options, stock, crypto, whatever it may be, with your broker, how you would set it up. All right. So first thing we talked about before, if you took any of my trainings or if you're in Algo World, we use functions for a specific reason. So say we have 1 plus 1. All right. Let's run that. That equals 2. All right. We know that. Say we have 2 plus 2, right? We run that, that equals 4, all right? But we're going to continuously have to write down this code and get an output, right? So the faster way of doing repetitive code is creating a function, like we've talked about in the past. Add to, actually add num. And that's going to take A and B, all right? Go to A and B. It's going to be return A plus B. Let's run that. Now let's call the function. And let's put in 2 numbers that we want to add. All right, let's run that now. 3. So you see what I mean? With a function, we can take this repetitive task, put it into one block of code, and without having to continuously change it, we can just literally just add in the parameters here. That is what we use functions for. We use functions to do repetitive tasks and put it into one chunk of code to make it easier for us whenever we want to change it or utilize it again. So why am I talking about this in terms of a trading bot? Because a trading bot is literally going to be a class. And what a class is a grouping of functions. So you can think of a class as a one big function. And that holds smaller functions. So we're taking this concept to a bigger scale. So in a trading bot, you think about it. It has multiple different processes. What are you going to have in a trading bot? You're going to have placing orders, getting data, executing trade. What else? Calculating take profit, and etc. Yeah, you get the gist, right? A trading bot has a lot of different things that are needed inside of it in order to have it run on its own, right? All of these different things that a trading bot needs are going to essentially be functions. These all are going to be built into a function. And for them to work together, they need to be honed under a class. Because again, a class is one big function that holds smaller functions. Let me show you an example. So this is what a class setup would be. Trading bot. And it will take the first thing that a class takes is the initializer function. And that always, every function inside of a class starts with self. All right. Initializer function is where you just pretty much put the baseline things, such as the symbol that you're going to be trading, etc., etc. And you could actually write the entire script for your trading bot underneath the init function. So if you're in Algo World, I sent you guys my pullback script in Python, where I essentially wrote everything in the init function. And the reason I want you to watch this is because I want you to then break this down into multiple different functions. So what you can do next is you can now create your other one. So it could be execute. And again, remember, they all take self. Remember before we were talking about it, what else is going to be also get data. So it's going to take self. So every single thing that your trading bot's going to need to do, you can literally put it underneath a class and essentially have it initialized with different functions that handle every single process. Now, let me show you an example of this. So I actually had it down here. So this is an example of it. So I called a class called FutureBot. Of course, like I told you, every class, the first function that a class takes is the initializing function. I also put another one down here for connect, disconnect, in position, define assets, get data, calculate indicator, place order, execute trade, run. This is my setup. Now it changes again because again, if I want to tailor it a little bit more, so in position, disconnect, place orders, calculate. Under calculate indicator, I might even put definition. I might fire function, calculate TP. I might actually have this here too. And I might have something like that. Same thing with stop loss. I might have that underneath it as well too. So I might have stop loss in there as well. So as many things as you possibly can think of, as many different functions you possibly think of that will constitute your trading bot is what you would put in here. All right. The execute function is one of the most important ones because now you're going to be taking all of these functions and putting it in here to define the strategy. So if close, if the last close, -1, is greater than X, then you would use place order. Then you use the place order function here. You know what I mean? So everything above here will fall into the execute function, and then in the run will make sure that it checks the data connection and see if the execution can be set. So if you just have it without the run function, essentially it's going to run one time and that's it. But with the run function, it's going to continuously look to see if like conditions within the execute has been made so that an order can be placed. You know what I mean? So that's the architecture of a trading bot. Now, pass, I just put pass. This is not the actual code. Pass just means ignore what I have here. But in each one, you would put something like, you would put your broker here. Broker details to connect to via API. That's what will go here. Disconnect from broker API. You always have to have a disconnect from broker API. So whatever broker you're using, these two functions are necessary. I use interactive brokers. You can check them out for that. But you would have that there. In position, you want to, in this one, you would check. The whole purpose of this function is to check if you have any live positions, because you don't want the trading bot to continuously add new positions. You want to check how many positions you have, and if you do want to add a position, you would use this function in the execute and say if in positions add 1 or so, you know. But you just want to make sure you're keeping a check on that, because again, you don't want your trading bot just placing thousands of orders like and blowing your account. So this is important to have. Define asset. Defining what you want to trade. That's what this function is for. You got to put the details from your broker, how you want to, what you want to trade. This is what you would put here. Get data, and this again from your broker to broker API reference for data collection. And same thing for the rest. The rest are pretty much self-explanatory. You're calculating the indicator that you want to use. You want to put the syntax for the indicator into this function, calculating what take profit is, calculating what stop loss is, and you're calculating how to place orders. So that would be from your broker reference for placing orders. And that's it. You know, and like I said, with execute, you already know that. So I'll put that there as well. Execute all functions placed here for strategy execution. I know I spelled that wrong. Yeah. And essentially, and for run again, run is to make sure condition and execute is ready to execute. So it's going to check. So this run statement again is going to check. It's most likely going to be a while loop. That essentially is going to keep looking to make sure that your execution trade can place an order. So instead of the actual code running one time, and if your execution strategy is not there, like say if you're doing RSI strategy, if the RSI didn't hit level 70, you're not going to sell. If that's your whole strategy, if that's what's going to be underneath the execute trade, run is going to keep checking to make sure that if RSI is at the 70 level or not. That's essentially what run is doing. All right, but that's generally it. Now there is a lot more. So if there's anything else in your trading bot that you want to define, you could again put it into a function inside of this class. But that's essentially why you need a class. You need a class specifically for that, for literally taking every piece of what the trading bot's going to do and putting it into its own specific function that then gets sent to the execution side, which will allow it to run. And that's how you call it. And then you basically call each one at the end by, again, calling the class. So this is just in case you guys don't know how classes work. So you would call each one by calling them individually. So it will be connect. Actually, you got to put it within a variable. So we're going to call this strategy. Or actually, we're going to call this bot equals futures. And remember, always put it in a variable because you're going to be calling each one of these functions individually. And first it needs to be initialized, and that's how you do it, by putting it within a variable. So now what we're going to do next is do bot.connect. The first thing you're going to do is bot.connect, so that we can then connect to our broker. And then once you do bot.connect, everything else should be included in the rest. You just got to make sure you connect to your broker first, and then you can do bot.execute. And the reason why you can shoot down to bot.execute is because the rest of these functions, instead from disconnect you want to put at the bottom too. So you want to do bot.disconnect. The rest of these functions is in position to find assets, blah, blah, blah. That's all going to be within execute. So you don't need to reference each one of them individually. But the connect and disconnect are outside of execute because this is just making sure you connect to your broker. So that's why you have to have a bot.connect, bot.execute, and bot.disconnect. If you have the run function, the run function again is going to just loop the execute function. You can actually remove the execute function and put the run function, because the run function is actually referencing the execute function in a loop. So you can literally just put .run instead of .execute, because again, this is going to be a while loop that has the execute function, and the execute function has everything else, should have everything else inside of it. So you could do .run, but if you want to just test it out for one instance, you can just do .execute. And that's basically it. That's the basic architecture of trading bot. Again, take out pass and literally put in the syntax for whatever you're doing. So for the calculated indicator, so you would put, EMA equals TA.EMA. I don't know, depending on how your syntax is for calculating your indicator, but it's going to be set up like that. So this is it. This is basically it. So make sure you copy this down. And what you should do is go to your broker API and essentially try to try to put all of these together into functions. Every single thing you want to be done inside of a function. And that's basically it. It's actually really simple. It's like a book. They're all different chapters in a book of the class of your trading bot. So think about what you want to trade them on to do, create a function for it, have all functions go through the execute, and then have execute run through the run module so that it can continuously loop through it and make sure that if the condition is met for the execute, the actual trading bot would execute. And that's basically it. And make sure you always put in a variable and make sure you initialize the connect, execute or run depending on, again, run if you're going to be using it live, if you actually are ready to run it. Execute if you just want to test it out one time. All right. So play around with this, guys. Hope you guys learned a lot. See you in the next video. Peace.